Welcome. Today, we're taking a deep, data-driven dive into AMEC, a pivotal company at the very center of the global semiconductor equipment landscape. Our goal here is to deconstruct its performance, understand its competitive advantages, and frame the key variables that will shape its future.
Now, we're going to start with the conclusion. Our analysis points to 4 core insights that really tell the entire story of AMEC. First, it's a company with accelerating growth, fired up by a brand new business line. Second, its profitability is being driven by operational efficiency, not by taking on debt. Third, it's a business protected by 2 very powerful and very different competitive moats. And finally, its market valuation has some extremely high expectations baked right in.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by decoding the core technology, then we'll look inside the company's growth engine, analyze its competitive defenses, and finally, we'll put it all together to frame a clear outlook for the future. All right, we've laid out the key findings. Now, let's build the foundation for those insights, and that really begins with understanding the technology at the heart of the business. You see, to properly assess AMEC's position in the market, we first have to understand the fundamentals of how a chip is made. The first of 2 absolutely critical processes is called etching. The best way to think about it is as microscopic sculpting. It's the process of precisely removing material to carve these incredibly intricate circuits onto a silicon wafer. And etching isn't a one-size-fits-all process. There are 2 main types. The first, CCP, acts almost like a high-pressure sandblaster, using high-energy ions to carve out the deep vertical structures needed for 3D memory chips. The second method, ICP, is much more delicate, more like a precise chemical mist that's perfect for working on the complex, sensitive layers of an advanced logic chip. And here's the crucial part. AMEC has mastered both technologies, which allows them to address over 95% of their domestic market's application needs. So, if etching is the subtraction process, thin film deposition is its opposite. It's the addition process. This is where you meticulously build up the chip, layer by layer, depositing ultra-thin films of different materials onto the wafer with atomic-level precision to create the chip's functional structures. All right, so how does this mastery of advanced technology actually translate into business performance? Let's take a look inside the growth engine. And right here, the data tells a powerful story. You can see the core etching business is growing at a very healthy 40%. But look over at the new thin film deposition products. That segment has exploded, growing at over 600%. This isn't just incremental growth. This is the successful launch of a powerful second engine for the entire company. Now, that kind of breakout growth doesn't happen by accident. It's being fueled by a massive investment in the future. Spending over 30% of your revenue on R&D, well, that's a clear signal of a deliberate corporate strategy. You're prioritizing long-term technological leadership and market share gains over maximizing short-term profit margins. So, to understand how the company is generating shareholder returns, we can use a DuPont analysis. This breaks down profitability into its core components. Now, if you look at this table, you'll see the net margin fluctuates. That's because of the heavy R&D spending we just talked about. But the key metric to watch here is the total asset turnover. Do you see its steady climb? This shows that the company is getting dramatically more efficient at using its assets to generate revenue. This is absolutely critical because it means growth is being funded by operational excellence, not by piling on debt. Of course, this kind of growth and efficiency is going to attract a lot of competition. So the natural question is, how is it defended? Well, our analysis shows that AMEC is protected by 2 very distinct yet reinforcing moats. The first moat is pure technology. The company holds patents on a dual reaction chamber design for its etching equipment. This gives its customers a real advantage in terms of higher throughput and lower cost per wafer, and it's been validated at the industry's most advanced 5-nanometer node. The second moat is geopolitical. In today's climate, supply chain security has become paramount, creating a powerful domestic sourcing preference. This gives AMEC a structural advantage in its home market that is simply unavailable to its international peers. So, now that we understand the technology, the financials, and the competitive defenses, we can put all the pieces together and build a clear framework for analyzing the company's future. This valuation table tells us exactly what the market is expecting. AMSE's price-to-earnings ratio is trading at over 100 times, which is significantly higher than its domestic and global peers. But why? Well, look to the right at the projected revenue growth rate, or CAGR.
The market is pricing in expectations that AMSE will grow nearly 5 times faster than its established global rivals. That's what you call a significant growth premium.
And this brings us right to the central question. What are the key variables that will ultimately determine if AMEC can deliver on these massive growth expectations?
Instead of focusing on a single price target, we can track the company's progress using a scenario analysis. A steady progress scenario assumes moderate domestic investment and steady market share gains. The accelerated substitution scenario models a world where domestic spending is higher and AMX captures share even faster. And finally, an industry headwind scenario models a potential slowdown. By tracking key metrics like domestic capex growth and market share shifts, we have a clear, objective framework for evaluating how the company is actually performing against those high expectations.
Ultimately, this deep dive into AMEC forces us to consider a much broader question for the entire industry. In a global landscape that is being reshaped by supply chain realignment, the very definition of what makes a technology company resilient may be changing. It might no longer be just about having the best technology, but about combining that technical prowess with a strategic position inside a secure and reliable supply ecosystem.